Well, I can't promote anyone too.
That's okay. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. Welcome to APNIC 51. My name is Sunny Chendi from APNIC, and I'll be the MC for this session. Before I welcome and introduce the chair and co-chair of Cooperation SIG, let me go through a few housekeeping notes. As with all APNIC conferences, please be mindful of the code of conduct, which will be posted in the chat. And it's also published on APNIC 51 website, conference website. If you have any questions about the event brief using Zoom or any other questions not related to this session, please post them in the chat box and one of my colleagues will be answering your questions. During Q&A and open mic, if you want to ask a question or make a comment, you can either use the raise of hand function in the Zoom, which is the preferable one. If you raise hand, we will allow you to speak and ask your question, or you may post your comment and question in the chat box. Now, that is all from me for now. Let me introduce the chair and the co-chair of Cooperation SIG, Joy Chan and Bikram Shrestha. Over to you both, and we will take questions as you prefer. Joy, are you there?
Yes.
Thank you, Joy.
Okay, there we go. Thank you very much. And my big welcome, and thank you very much, Sunny, to helping us to kick this start. I want to give my very big and warm welcome to everyone coming to our session. And I think my screen has also been locked. So do whenever that you are free, please do unlock me there. But I also want to just start with the session by telling you that I want to echo very much for what our APNIC EC chair Gaurav said last year when we were having the face-to-face meeting. We didn't realize it's going to be a year already that coming to March right now that we're hosting this program. And it is the pandemic that we never thought that it's going to be coming like right after our last meeting, and it's lasting almost a year now. So I'm very glad to hosting this meeting, and also because our cooperation special interest group is really a group that talking about the broader internet topics, and we touched on governors, and in the previous session we talked about internet jurisdiction, we talked about cybersecurity, we talked about the cyber norms, and today we are going to be looking at the pandemic after the COVID-19. How does the network operators and the different sectors that we are working together with this issue? So I have a wonderful panel of speakers. We have 5 today with Anju, who's coming from World Wide Web Foundation, and she's going to be giving us some very good insight about what's happening and giving us the anecdotes on the pandemic. And we have Danny Lee from Hong Kong Broadband Group. We have Mei Ling Xu from Dimension Medical Foundation from Jia Christian Hospital. And we have Warwick from the Australia Academic and Research Networking. That's going to be representing from our net education, and Joey Dabao from the Philippine Cable and Telecommunication Association. I think that our speakers are coming from networking as well as education and health sectors. So with that, we're going to be trying to, because we have 60 minutes and we want to make sure that we utilize the time wisely. So I'm going to be heading my mic to Anju Mangal, who's going to provide from the Asia Pacific overview on the impact of COVID-19 on the network operators. And also because where she's coming from, she's going to have a good viewpoints on the affordabilities. So we like to put this, given Anju this opportunity to share with us. So my mic to you, Anju.
Okay. Okay, I'm unable to share my video, but that's fine. I'll just go right into the presentation. So hello, everyone. It's such a pleasure to join today's discussion. Before I dive into what affordability and meaningful connectivity really means, I would like to just give you a quick overview of the work that we are doing. So the Alliance for Affordable Internet is an initiative of the World Wide Web Foundation, and we are the world's broadest technology sector alliance working to drive down the price of broadband by transforming policy and regulatory frameworks. And we do this in the low and middle income countries. We have more than 100 members, and we use a multi-stakeholder coalition, and we work with various stakeholders to make internet affordable and also look at tailored projects to drive prices down. And we ensure a gender responsive policy making in all our efforts, and we work to close the digital divide. So bringing in key stakeholders like women, youths, persons with disabilities, and vulnerable communities is our key priority as well. So many people in Asia and the Pacific are kept offline by the cost to connect. A recent study we did for ITU shows that around 428 billion would be needed to achieve universal access to broadband connectivity by 2030. South Asia and East Asia and Pacific account for around half of the unconnected population, and 90% of required investments are directly tied to the need to roll out and maintain broadband networks. So what do we mean by affordability? A4AI and the UN Broadband Commission define affordability as 1 for 2. So this means that 1 GB for no more than 2% of average monthly income. But even if you reach that target, there are still a lot of challenges. In the context of the current pandemic, internet access is now even further away from being affordable. And it's not just about those who are offline, it's also about those people who are already online, but who cannot afford to pay for data to get fast connection. And we're also challenged with natural disasters. So like last year, a cyclone hit Bangladesh, affecting about 60% of the telecommunication network towers. In Fiji, we had 2 cyclones in December and January, and the people were out of electricity, some of them. So without meaningful connectivity, the true value of the internet will remain out of reach. What do we mean by meaningful connectivity? When we can use the internet every day, using an appropriate device, enough data and a fast connection. Many people in Asia and the Pacific still lack quality of access. They need to use the internet's most powerful features like online learning, video streaming, telehealth. And device affordability is also a huge barrier to internet access, and this was apparent during COVID-19. So we should not have a world where a lack of internet access prevents children from learning online when schools are closed in Asia and the Pacific, or where students have to sit on the roofs of their parents' house in India because it's the only place they can get a mobile signal, or riding a donkey and hiking mountains in Kyrgyzstan to provide internet connectivity. I mean, these are all real issues. So we use the Affordability Drivers Index to measure a number of factors that can affect affordability, drive down the cost of broadband, and make it more affordable as many as possible. But in general, the good news is we are seeing positive trends across the Asia and the Pacific countries that we have measured. So just to give you an example, in 2020, Malaysia was one of the top countries in meeting affordability targets. Why is this? Because Malaysia's broadband plan set clear targets around expanding access to vulnerable communities through everything from building new towers to making handsets more affordable. And countries like India have seen the cost of 1 GB mobile broadband come down by more than 60%, especially during COVID-19. And a lot of these countries, like in Pakistan, Indonesia, and Malaysia, they have Universal Access Fund, which provides internet penetration and also boosts affordability. I'm just going to leave it at that because obviously it's 5 minutes. I would like to give you more, but I will hand it over to the moderator. You're mute.
Okay, thank you, Anju. I think it's a great introduction, kind of like an overview to see all of these affordability issues. I wish we have more times, and I'm sure that when we come back to Q&As and others, if time allows, I'd like to learn more about this Asia Pacific, because in Asia Pacific, we do have a variety, a different range of different areas with different level of maturity and the affordability. But this is a good point that you have been sharing with us. So I'm going to be turning to some anecdotes. I think that in the past or during this pandemic, there's different areas and the different ways that we're reacting from the different sectors. So with that, I really like to hear some of the stories. How do we handle when we are facing the pandemic and some of the issues that in your specific sector. So here we have in this session, we have two speakers, Warwick from the Australia and also Mei Lin from Taiwan. So my microphone hand over to Warwick if you want to kickstart from there. Thank you.
Hi, thank you very much for that, Joy. So with COVID-19, we saw a significant change very quickly in the academic sector. To a degree, it kind of was fortuitous that it happened just as the the university terms began for the Research and Education Network. For primary schools and so forth, it was just on a new term. And so we saw some interesting reactions from that. Some of the things that we saw is that in the case of ARNet, we became, instead of a content consumer, we suddenly became a content provider. We suddenly saw a significant shift in our connectivity. This resulted in us having to deploy 3 times as much capacity to China, mainly because of the fact that a lot of students in Australia are actually overseas international students from China. We also had to come around with ways to make it so that they could access things such as the university's Google Drives and access content that was normally restricted within China. So there was some interesting VPN solutions that were put forward and options there around how to actually actively provide them with the same experience they would have got except from at home. So there was some interesting things there. Some of the things that I guess that probably a lot of people don't realize, and I'll give an example of this, is in ARNet's case, we saw that per day, the total number of participants in a Zoom setup on a day went from 7,000 to 824,000 in a day. We saw that the number of meetings per day went from 2,200 meetings per day to 68,000 and above. This gives you an idea of just the volume of change that occurred within a 2-week period. The other part of that is the fact that, especially within Australia, and I can also sort of speak to New Zealand at the moment as well, within Australia, we've seen the lockdowns being somewhat not consistent, in the sense that one state may go into a lockdown, other states may not. And so that we see interesting results where the students are told 1 week, yes, you're to be at school. The next week, no, you're not to be at school. And so this has the interesting impact, and you can see it on our traffic graphs of how our network actually reacts to that delivery. And so it does become a bit of a question mark. And talking with my colleagues within the internet service provider community, there was a rapid upgrade path needed for a number of players within Australia, just purely due to the fact that their traffic was designed around handling peak loads at night, not peak loads at day from home. And so what that had was the impact of 2 students, 3 students, 4 students from home trying to access the content and their network not being able to provide it. So there was some significant bits there. The other thing that I'd point out is that we performed 100+ changes in a 3-week period that would normally take us somewhere in the vicinity of 3 to 6 months. That was how rapidly we were responding to various things that were occurring across the infrastructure. And one of the things that we have heard from our customers, the universities and the schools, is that had we not reacted the way we did, they would be in far more dire straits, because they would be in the news, you'd hear about it. Students would be having to delay exams for the following year, etc. So it's been a very interesting experience, but at the same time, very challenging but rewarding for our staff to see that we've actually made such an impact across the industry. And I'll hand over to Mei Ling.
Thank you, Warwick. I think that your story really is very amazing, because when we are looking at the research network, we're thinking that people from the university are doing their research and providing the fundamental, I guess, telecommunications. But you did mention that there's a lot of the international students elsewhere. So that makes the story very, very interesting. And I think you can see the impact is tremendously different than just the academic part of it. Thank you. So Mei Ling, are you ready to share your stories here?
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Mei Ling from Dimension Medical Institute, Jai Christian Hospital, and I'd like to share our story with you. So when we entered the emergent status of the COVID-19, it was about the Chinese New Year time last year. So, you know, we were in a vacation, the holiday. But one day I got a phone call from the hospital asking us to do some modification of our health information system to help the clinician to know what they should do when there's a suspected case came into the hospital. So then it became more and more requirement, because every day there's about 10,000 people comes in and out to the hospital. We are a regional teaching hospital, and we have 1,000 beds, and also about 4,000 outpatient visit every day. So you know how busy the hospital is, and especially when the COVID-19, when we face the COVID-19, we have many things that we have to manage the risk, including that we have to share the information and also do the training to our employees. And so in a very, just few days, we need to set up a website to put the COVID-19 related information and to have the employees easy to access the information. So we have an app for them to for them to access the information very easily. And we also have to put on some important video, the training video, to have everyone get trained. And we have to monitor if they really get a training, because it's very important for everyone to know what to handle with that. So the information and the training is the first thing that we solve in this status. And then for the risk management, because so many people come into the hospital, so we have to set up a entrance guard to find out those high-risk people. So because in Taiwan, we are a single payer, the National Health Insurance in Taiwan already set up an infrastructure that every citizen get an NHI card. It's a smart card. So everyone come into the hospital, they are with their cards. So we can recognize who they are, and we can check the information by the card, because the NHI have a medical system to exchange the information. So for every patient, we know their status, whether they have come from the other hospital or they have some traveling history or contact history. The NHI integrate the information with the immigration agency. So they put important information on the cloud. And so there's a VPN, virtual private network, that we can access the data with the patient's card. So with this infrastructure, we check the temperature and check the traveling history and the contact or cluster in status of the patient. I'd like to show you a picture. Can you see this? Okay, no. Okay. So in the entrance, people line up there to check with their card, and so we can find out those high-risk people. And if they have they are high-risk people, we ask them to move to the other area. It's an outdoor area for them to do the examination and for the doctor for the doctor's visit. And we also have the X-ray take outdoor. So at that time, we have to set up the network and the computer equipment outdoor very quickly to reduce the risk. And the other thing is that for those people who are isolated, who are asked to be home isolated, or if they have some disease and they are not allowed to come to the hospital, then we do the telemedicine. So the patient can contact with the local health authority, and the local health authority will check if they have they need other than a fever or respiratory symptoms. If they are in an urgent medical needs other than that situation, then the local health authority will arrange the telemedicine. They ask the health service provider to have a the video conference with the patient. So the doctor uses the consultation room in the medical institute for telemedicine. So that's what we how the IT help in the hospital with all the network, the computer, and the equipment set up quickly. And also we have to monitor the temperature of the employees, the people who work in this hospital. We have to monitor if they are kept in a health situation. So every employee need to log in the system to report their temperature every day. And the administrator need to monitor if everybody here are in a safe status. If they have some symptoms, then they need to report. So that's how we manage the risk. Okay, so that's my share. So thank you.
Thank you, Mei. I think it's a good story. I think that there's a saying that to protect oneself, that everybody else needs to have their own responsibility as well, like wearing masks, social distance, that things that we all know. So coming from the hospital's point of view, that you see that much more clear. And it's good that you have implemented in different ways, especially with the telemedicines. So that's really a good thing that we can, we are happy to hear that. Okay, so I'm going to turn the angle a little bit different, that we have heard from the education, we have heard from the medical side, and that now that I want to turn the microphone over to Joey Dabao and Danny from the networking side of it. And Joey, I want to say that this is great honor to have you. And if we wouldn't have this pandemic, we should all be sitting together face to face in your local host in Philippines, because this event supposed to be taking place in Philippines. But hopefully that we will come back to you again sometimes, maybe. I think Philippines is a wonderful place to visit, but very glad to having you as the representative and share with us from the cable telecommunication side of it. So thank you.
Thanks, Joy. As she said in his opening remarks, we're really disappointed not to show everyone the best that Manila has to offer, but hopefully at some point in the future, we'll be able to show you all the delicious, fattening food that we have. So I'm going to start with what is probably going to be the least digital of any presentation that you're going to hear today. So to briefly introduce the Philippine Cable and Telecommunications Association, we comprise over 300 cable TV operators, of which over 100 are offering internet services. Some members are big organizations, some of whom are very active in this community, and many are very small and far, far away areas with very little access to training or other ways to increase their knowledge. The association over time has fostered a cooperative environment wherein the systems that know more share this knowledge with other members, and this cooperation was really highlighted during the pandemic. On the onset of the pandemic, the industry as a whole was faced with an incredible problem. Prior to the pandemic, fixed line internet penetration was incredibly low, probably because most users were happy to use mobile data since they were hardly at home. With the mandatory work from home orders, this could no longer be the case. To add on to this, the largest free TV network in the country was ordered to be shut down, causing the demand for the video business to spike as well. So we had a lot of installations to do. We had to do them very quickly, keep standards high, and implement safety measures that we didn't know how to do, because after all, none of us have epidemiologists in our companies. Safety measures proved to be a bigger challenge than one would expect. Just before the lockdown, Taal volcano had erupted in Batangas, spewing volcanic ash over a large portion of Luzon, the largest and most populated island of the country. To keep safe from the volcanic ash, Filipinos had to keep a steady supply of surgical masks or N95 masks. So when the lockdown was announced, this included air cargo and sea cargo stopping as well. The supply for masks had to be rationed, with top priority going to medical personnel, as it should. So the very first thing we had to do was draft a safety plan everyone could follow. Thankfully, many of our members brought expertise from other fields. Some are volunteer firefighters, and we ran training courses on government-prescribed safety protocols and how to improvise ventilators and filters to keep our field personnel and our subscribers safe. And thankfully, we were able to go about and do our business connecting homes in a safe manner. The next challenge was distance learning. With the closure of schools, the challenge for the Department of Education was how to start the next school year. Again, given the low fixed line penetration and the relatively high cost of mobile data, online classes were unattractive to families of most public school students. The overwhelming preference for Filipinos for distance learning was via printed modules. Without face-to-face classes, the department had to find a way to reach homes. They started producing video content to be aired on a government-owned station. The station, however, did not have many transmission towers. And so to ensure the success of this effort, the reach had to be amplified. And so the pay TV industry as a whole came together and signed agreements with the department to ensure all pay TV households will have access to this content. The PCTA also partnered with the Knowledge Channel, who had been producing educational content long before the pandemic to further supplement the learning catalog. Clearly, the pandemic has forced us to use technology both old and new, and we just have to keep adapting until we get a hold on this disease. So here at the association, we always try to move forward. So that's it for me. Thanks, Joy.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. It's good to know that there's 370. Did you say the cable and telecommunication in the association? That's a lot. And we're gonna turn the switch a little bit different to Danny. Danny, you're coming from Hong Kong from the broadband networking group, and I'm sure you have a lot of experience. With not just the pandemic. I know that there are some other events happening in Hong Kong during the time. So you must have a good story to share with us and telling us that, how the new normal things is right now. So I'm gonna let you have the mic, and let's hear from Danny in Hong Kong.
Thank you, Joy. Good afternoon. I'm Danny Lee of HKBN Group, stand for Hong Kong Broadband Network. Actually, to give you a bit of context of what HKBN is HKBN serving more than one third of the household in Hong Kong, and also more than half of the enterprises in Hong Kong. So So during the last year, for the especially on the COVID-19, we saw a bandwidth search, like what Warwick talked about. I was going to show you what the search is. So if you contact that, okay. So I think you can see it. So during the last year, from last year 2020 January to February of 2021, you can see from the office hour has been jump up from the reference of the before pandemic, jump up quite a lot to 83%, and then down, and the second work from home announcement from government in July time is 102%, and it's drop a bit after the third work from home because people are getting used to it. But however, in the long office hour, although it's jump up a bit in the work from home first phase, second and third, but it didn't come down at all afterward, because it seems that like a lot of people is changing their behavior totally. So I'm going to show you this. It's like what have been changed. So for example, people is using YouTube more in the second work from home period, and then Facebook a bit more, and then Netflix a lot more, and Taobao, the e-commerce in China, also has been jumped up from all this more than 1/3 of household in Hong Kong. You can see this is quite a bit of jump, and so this is the going to. Okay, so this is the information I want to show you, and you can see there's a lot of changes during this past year, and a lot of OTT, that means the Netflix, HBO, and other online streaming tools people have been using it during the daytime, during the nighttime, especially during the nighttime. If you are family, usually you watch the same TV before. Now it seems that all the family members are using different OTT tools, YouTube, Facebook, Netflix, and others to watch TV now. And also another behavior is like you can see the Taobao has been changed a lot on the traffic. It seems that a lot of people doing more e-commerce now during the daytime, during the nighttime. And I just echo back to what we talk about is, it ring the bell is like, I was just wondering why in the nighttime it has been 40% more. And it seems that a lot of people is studying in UK and US, in Hong Kong, and they didn't go back at all, because when they go back, they will stay in the dorm and doing online education anyway. So they stay in Hong Kong to do. So this is another way. And the change of this is bring to another issue is the cybersecurity. And the cybersecurity is it your home device and you have IoT, a lot of IoT inside your home. And also like another thing is phishing emails. Like 2 days ago, a guy just got an email or SMS from a bank saying his password has been outdated and changed, and he's been stolen 130,000 Hong Kong dollars. It's around 20,000 Hong Kong, 20,000 US, 150,000. 15,000 US. So this is something like we have to be very careful of all this phishing. And the last but not least is your home broadband. I will see a lot of people complaining you have a very bad connectivities, not because our broadband, it's because of the Wi-Fi at home. So this is another issue that has been a big issue last year, is because previously your kid just playing the video games or online game in their room, and you don't care about much of their Wi-Fi connection, is this good or bad? But now they have to study in their room. This is another story, because they have to be good connections to watch what they're teaching, what your teacher is teaching, right? So this is another issue has been changed to your home. Is it office grade now? So this is my sharing so far. Thank you.
Okay, Danny, yes, you can see that more and more people are going on the social networking and also buying more things. I don't know if that's a stimulation to the economy. Hopefully that's a good sign in some ways, right? So before we're gonna be going to our next section, which is talking about the true spirits of our special interest group on the cooperation. I like to ask our community, our attendees, if there's any questions you would like to ask from the stories that you hear, Warwick from the education, Mei-Ling from the medical, and also from our networking. If there's any questions, do feel free to use the question Q&A button, asking questions. So we'd be happy to having our speakers to answer that. Okay, and also it's a time to have our wonderful 5 speakers to prep for the next section. That's the cooperation side of it, regardless of which sectors or industry that you are coming from. What do you see that there's some of the different norms that's going to be happening? Perhaps it's going to be a permanent thing. So some of the things that we have already practiced in the last year, maybe it's going to go permanent. Do you need more collaborations from the different people, different partners? And what are some of the difficulty or something that you're looking forward for this? I think that it's going to be very interesting to see that the world has been changing, and some people are waiting to see that if we're ever going to go back to the way it used to be a year ago. But some of us has already been thinking that if this is going to be the way that we're going to be operating, less face-to-face, but more on the virtual side of it, then what are some of the things that we're going to prep ourselves to do so? I see one on the chat room. If you have, okay. So any questions, we'd be happy to hear from you. And if not for now, I'm just going to go over with all our speakers to share your point of view. And if there's more stories you like to tell, do use the time and we can hear that. And why don't we start with Anju? You want to get a start?
Yes, I was hoping that the 63 participants would come up with their stories. It would have been nice to have such an engaging discussion. But from what the speakers have basically said, whilst I talked about access and broadband being expensive, people don't have the digital skills they need to benefit from internet use. And there's often a lack of relevant local content to engage people online. So for me, I think, I mean, these were some really good examples in terms of what the communities are doing, and particularly when there is disasters like a volcanic eruption. So having these sort of ideas and thoughts in terms of how do you connect the unconnected, because I mean, I am connected, but how do I make sure that the person in a rural and remote community is connected and has the same affordable device that I have currently, which is a laptop and a smartphone, but not many people do. So I think, for me and to the community in this group is that we need to continue dedicating funds to enhance internet affordability and bringing down the cost of mobile devices. And also when you are doing all this, make sure you're including digital skills training and local content with the focus on making sure that you are closing the digital divide, because a lot of us have not really talked about the big digital divide, which is happening a lot in the Asia Pacific region. And another thing that I wanted to mention was to raise awareness with your consumers or customers, because a lot of them don't even know what cybersecurity is or cyber, so cyber safety is something that may be relevant for them to understand. How is it that you can make sure that you do that? So, I mean, we are all here to help, and please reach out. We can also find ways to continue this type of work, because it's not just about regional, but national engagement and international partners. At the end of the day, we want universal access and reaching the meaningful connectivity, which is a reality for all. I'll just leave it at that.
Well, thank you. You mentioned all the wonderful things that we are utilizing with the digital age, but also when we are talking about affordability, devices, the subscription, the broadband rate, and also you touched on the awareness on the security. I think the more that we are using the higher level of security we needed to be aware of. And with that, I kind of like want to ask Warwick, you are in the academic, you're in the university. University happen to have all the students poking around and trying out different things. And what have you seen? And what are some of the things when we are talking about cooperation? Are you increasing your bandwidth? Are you providing more accessible? And I think the device for you from Australia perhaps is not something as an issue for the affordability, but it could be for the different range of families or students. Why don't you share with us?
I'll take it as two different questions if I can. So the first one is, you're right, with students on our network, especially cybersecurity students, they are always trying to find ways to break into things. That's their job. They're trying to learn how to do it. With that, one of the things that we've seen is, and it's been in the news around the world, is that anybody who's doing research into COVID-19 is now a target for cyber attacks. So as a research and education network, we do see attacks going to the universities that are doing work in regards to research into COVID-19 and other parts of pandemics and so forth. So it's definitely a very big thing. The other thing that I'll point out here is that, and this goes back to Anya's comment earlier, one thing that I can't stress enough is we as a community have to help out our parents, our friends and family who do not understand that they can be scammed out of money or out of resources and things like that because they've just come onto the internet. And it's we've seen an increase in that as well, where people are doing that. In regards to devices, whilst you're right, in terms of economics in Australia, it's not so much of a problem, but it still is a problem when a set of parents have to go out and buy 2 devices for their children to do their work on. So you saw a huge increase in iPads and like Chromebooks and things like that, because parents were trying to figure out, is this a long-term investment, a short-term investment? What do we need to do? Because how do you share a PC with your children? At the best of times, children don't share. So you try and find that happy medium there. So I think it's been really interesting to see how that's played out across the last year. And the final thing that I'll leave you with, and this is more from my experience, one of the biggest challenges that I have as a service provider is we can't easily go to places where we have equipment now. And so talking about volcanic ash and bits and pieces, we've had experiences where I couldn't get people down to replace hardware in Tasmania, for example, which is on the southern part of Australia. With COVID, that's even further restricted because I could possibly get someone there, but I may not be able to get them back. And so there's other restrictions and things to take into account. So the thing that I wanted to point out is it's really about engaging the community that you're in. So in my case, as a service provider, not only in research and education, but in terms of network communications, talking to my colleagues and peers in all areas of Australia and globally and saying, hey, look, I really need a favor. Could one of you guys go and actually do this remote hands work for me because I physically can't get someone there? And that's the thing that I think as a community, we have to engage and go, we've got to all help each other. It's without that, we'll all not succeed. And it's not about one particular entity now, it's about all of us. And that's why I think coordination and cooperation is the big key here.
Wonderful, wonderful, Warwick. I think you are speaking the true spirit of it. It's really helping each other. It's really working with each other together to make it better. So I do have a question from Amrita. The question to the panelists is that what are the lessons or best practices you have learned from the other nations / NOCs during the pandemic, and if you have implemented them, okay? So anybody want to take that? I think that there's many lessons that we are learning from each other, and it's that how do we really actually put that in practice so that our organization or our nations will be able to benefit from that. Anybody want to take it?
Okay, Danny, I will take it.
Danny, thank you.
Yeah. So for the last year, there's a lot of cybersecurity threats and a lot of things vulnerability because people or companies are moving away from office, which is quite protected in a way. to a quite vulnerable home environment. Like I said, it's not an office grade, first of all, but also there's a lot of non-protected items in your home. That's two things. So in the practice is how you get the best approach for your employees to work from home, to connect to your sensitive data in your office, in your university, in your hospital. That's really, really important. Another thing is, like I said, the phishing practice that making or enhancing your employees cyber security awareness. This is really, really important. Otherwise, it's one phish email, one phish SMS will get you done. So this is really important. So in our company, we have this practice is we have phishing email more than every month. So, and the worst, or our colleagues also bring me is, I often even have my CEO names. I have approval from the CEO, have his name on the phishing email. So he's using his name to send a phishing email. So to get people to be aware what to look for in a phishing email, to make sure that you cannot, the hacker cannot get through you or own that identity to other people in your company and to the sensitive data inside. That's one of the lesson learned. I think our practice to share. Thank you.
Yeah, I think Danny, when you were mentioning about like YouTube, Facebook, the increase of the usage has been going up. You also mentioned about Taobao as an e-commerce thing, and I think that there's a lot of the fraud that people are using such platform to do so. So the phishing, the fraud, how are we going to be able to make sure that the people who utilize the site really have their awareness? That's really something good that you mentioned. Anybody else who want to answer that, or comments that you learn from the others? Okay, I'm sure there's a lot, and I like to kind of like asking perhaps Mei-Ling and Dabao that Joey, that if there's any last comments that you want to throw out as for the cooperation side of it.
Yes, Mei-Ling speaking. Yes, because of the pandemic, the digital transformation becomes more important, especially for the telemedicine, because we have institute-to-institute telemedicine, or we have a patient side with the institute, the telemedicine. So I think the edge side, is very important, because network bandwidth need to be for example, the 5G give us a more network bandwidth, and also for the telemedicine, we need to look more clear, not only in 2D, maybe in 3D. So the VR and AR also have a chance to be more practical in the medical side. So we are looking forward for the technologies improvement, because for the online education, it's the same situation. If there's a VR and AR to make the telesite more realistic, then in the application side, it will be better. Thank you.
Yeah, the more data you want from 2D to 3D, the more realistic, the more bandwidth that you're talking about, right? And Joey, I want you to kind of like maybe comment on the cooperation side of it. And then we're going to hand the microphone to Bikram. And Bikram has always been a wonderful co-host, and he's been picking up all the good notes and give us some highlights, maybe after your sharing. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Joy. So we at the association, we're always looking to help our smallest members, because our smallest members are there with the people who aren't able to afford good connections. It's not easy to start an ISP in the Philippines. It's not cheap, and it's certainly not easy to get training. And that's one thing we're incredibly grateful to the people at APNIC for. They've helped us to get our members up to speed with everything they need to start up the ISP, to get IP resources and all of that. And if there are any efforts out there that have interest in wanting to see rural communities get online so that they can do distance learning, telemedicine, and all these things that I think will be around for a very, very long time, do please reach out. We're always looking for partnerships and ways to move forward.
Okay, Bikram, my big guy.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Joy. Thank you very much for everyone for being here at APNIC 2021 APNIC 51 virtual conference. On behalf of Cooperation SIG, this is one of our sessions we have been continuing from last few years. So with this theme of a role of a network operator during the COVID-19 pandemic, it is our pleasure to share that this Cooperation SIG has been discussing initiated multi-stakeholder model to promote and encouraging open and inclusive dialogue, as well as exchange of ideas among concerned stakeholders from their respective communities. Definitely, this session has focused on how APNIC community has cooperated with the health sectors, education sector, and network operator have adapted their businesses facing during a pandemic, and its issues, challenges are affecting to the internet during and post-COVID-19. So the COVID-19 pandemic crisis is one of the toughest challenges faced by the mankind. It has affected almost the entire world with 194 countries reporting confirmed cases. The pandemic had led to social economic disruptions with many countries declaring lockdown. And during the lockdown, several organizations shifted to work from home, virtual meeting, and video calls. Internet has become a lifeline for the continuation of economic and social activities during this pandemic, and will remain so in a post-pandemic world. There is no questions that network operators and digital service are crucial for many peoples across the world coping the COVID-19 pandemic. Online educations and online health and remote working possibility have brought a semblance of remotely to uncertain times. Telehealth solutions now offload certain activities from healthcare system, enabling doctors and nurse to focus on saving lives. Video conferencing and social network helps us staying in touch with our family and friends. Media, online news, and online games keeps entertained while passing hour after hour at home. So generally speaking, internet plays a vital role during the pandemic, and the uptake of health service, e-commerce, and e-governance has increased significantly. Therefore, the importance of network operators service has grown manifold in order to mitigate the pandemic impact, and has required to continue of network operators. So according to the statement made by previous speakers, the consumptions of internet bandwidth was maximum during the period of pandemic, resulting high demand of internet services worldwide. The bandwidth consumption was high even during the night hours, and for the same network operators who were under the situation to pretend the internet use sustainability to fulfill the demand of internet, resulting the upgradation of network device and its functionality. As we all know that world is overwhelmed by the COVID-19 pandemic. Many industries are trying to understand how they are navigating the crisis. For network operators, it's an opportunity to serve their communities and simultaneously building the infrastructure. Lastly, operators can be medium for messaging to mass of people with peer public health update for local or national government that will ensure people are following public safety guidelines. The ability to reach people on wide and individual basis is critical to ensure accurate information reaches the public. It is not certain when this crisis will end, when we resume our normal life, and when we can definitely say that we have beaten COVID-19. Until we begin to stem the tide, the network operator are and will continue to deliver essential services to consumers. In addition to all the people that are doing amazing things to fight this COVID pandemic, I hope we all are look back at the work and network operators and health sectors and education sectors, even in the banking, digital banking, have done to help us emerge on the other side. So I think we have been doing this session for our community. So thank you everyone. Thank you Anju, thank you Daniel, thank you Joy, thank you Melly, and all the speakers, of course Joy Chang and staff to support for this session who has been working from the behind. So thank you all participation. Thank you. Over to Joy.
Thank you all. I think we have a very diverse group of panelists. We talk about different things. With the pandemic, things are changing a lot, and I'm really appreciate that everybody joined this session. I think this is a great session to share our experience and to pick up the best practice from the others. Sunny, do I hand this back to you?
Yes, Joy. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Joy and Bikram, for chairing the session. Great session. And also for all the panelists for sharing your rich experience with us, and to everyone for participating in this Cooperation SIG session at APNIC 51 online, and also for your questions. We'll take a quick break of 15 minutes, and then we have a social event after 15 minutes, and I hope you all will join that. But before you go, I'll just start the poll, a quick poll for you to capture your feedback. It's very important that we understand how you felt with this session. So just take a quick poll, and then we will take a 15-minute break, and we join again in 15 minutes for the social event of Apricot 2021.
Sunny, no photo, no group photo.
I think that's an individual setting. Anju, good question. If you would like to enable the gallery view, you can take a group photo.
Okay. I know everyone.
And I'll switch off my camera so you can capture all the panelists. But let me close this poll, and you can enable the gallery view.
It's for the participants as well, if they're interested.
Okay,
yeah.
Let's have our
sure. Yeah.
I think it's a great session. I'm really
let me end the
for having
poll.
all of you.
Yeah. Let me end the poll, and thank you so much for completing the poll to letting us know. Okay. Let's take a group shot. I'll close my camera. Oh, yeah. Okay. We can go into gallery mode. Cool. Group 4. Yep. Can I turn? I'll put in the gallery mode. Can you all see that?
I think anyone else can see that.
Well, I can see the gallery view from here, but I think you have to turn individually on from your side.
Complicating everything. Sorry.
I think we're just going to have a fun time. Thank you very much for all of you who participate in this session.
Yes, please.
Looking
Please
forward
share
to the
your
next one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
See you in 15 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.